Hey guys, it's your friend Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. I have a physical bead store here in Forest City, North Carolina. I have a website called offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com, and I've been here on YouTube for about the last 11 years. I'm so excited you joined me today on this last Monday of March 2022 as we do our gift project for the month of March. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the gift project, that simply means back in January, I said every month of this year, I was going to give you a quick and easy project that you could do to throw in a box, have things already made. So when it comes time for a birthday, an anniversary, Hanukkah, Christmas, anything like that, you would have things already made and would not have to scramble to get things made for these events and holidays. So, I'm going to teach you how to make a really simple pair of fringe earrings today. I have come up with two new colors of bead mixes that I am absolutely in love with. I'm actually going to show you samples of several of these projects that I have used with this mix, and I think you're going to really like them. This is a great way to use up extra beads that you have in your stash, and again, they are quick. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we need to get started. All right, so here are the two new mixes that I have made. I have one, I'm calling this one Easter, just because it reminds me so much of Easter colors. Those pastels and greens and purples, and I just love this mix. It makes me so happy when I look at it. The other mix is one that I'm calling the Miss Jane's mix, because a sweet customer of mine named Jane basically asked me to do a custom mix for her. So that's what I did for a project she had. And here are the confetti earrings in the Miss Jane mix. I love these. Oh my God, they're so cute. So this is the, again, the Miss Jane's mix, and then the Easter mix, so you can see there how these different mixes are going to look when you actually stitch them up. Here is a really simple fringe that I did out of the Miss Jane's mix. I like my fringe long, so these are pretty long, but you can make them shorter, absolutely shorter. And then here's the really simple one that I'm going to show you today. Just a really small, simple fringe. Again, this one is out of the Easter mix here, but you can do any beads. You can do any colors. I have several fringe patterns. I mean, my goodness, these are one of the fringes from years and years ago that I did that is four colors. This one's four colors. So you can make them as long, as wide, whatever you want to do. I just wanted to show you a quick and easy way to use up some of your leftover beads for this project. So I'm going to actually be using today a needle with 2 yards of thread on it, and I'm going to be using the KO thread. I'm using this kind of periwinkle blue color. The reason I'm doing that is I originally used the dragon thread. Because the dragon thread is supposed to be good for drapes and fringes as well. Honestly, I did not like it. It was kind of stiff for that. I mean, it's the only thing I think I've found that I don't like dragon thread for. Fireline does not work good. You definitely want to use something like your KO or your 1G thread or Nymo or something like that to do these fringe earrings with. You're going to get the best sway on the fringe earring. So to start out, again, I've got 2 yards of thread on my needle, and I have my mix, my Easter mix, and I have just a really small amount of size 15 seed beads. That's all you're going to need. As you know, of course, you need ear wires, but that's it. That's all you need to do this fun project. So, like I said, you can make these as long or as short as you want. I have actually I did 48 beads in the center, and let me actually write that down for you so you can see this here. So I have 5. I have 5 pieces of fringe. This center fringe here is going to have 48 beads. Again, you can make it as long or as short, just up to you. The one on each side of that has 46 beads. And then the ones here on the outside, those are going to have 44 beads. So when I start, I'm going to put on 44, 46, 48, and then 46, 44. Now, if I was only going to do this as a 3 fringe, so 1, 2, 3, I can either do it like this one, where I did them all the same length, or I could do, if I still wanted them pretty long, I could do 48 and 46 here on each side, if you get my drift. If I want to make them wider, say I want to do, let's see, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I come in 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be my longest one, or my middle one here. And I could do 48, 46, 44, and 42. All right. So that will kind of give you an idea of if you want to make these wider, if you wanted to make them narrower using 3. So 5, 3, 7, whatever you want to do. It's best to try and kind of keep them in an odd number. So if you want a longest one, so that way you can have the long one in the middle and it kind of graduate up on each side. Or like I said, if you want, just do like I did here and do them all the same length and don't worry about it. But this one I'm going to show you is 5. Super easy to start out. So here we go. I'm going to pick up 2 beads from my pile here. I have no pattern in mind. I'm just picking up random beads, okay? So I've got my 2 beads. I'm going to bring them down. And I'm going to leave myself about 3 to 4 inches of tail thread here. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back up through just the first bead. Not up through both of them, but just the first one. And I'm going to pull this through. So what happens is my second bead sits next to the first bead here. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back down through that second bead that I added. Now, if I want to keep this nice and tight as I work, I'm going to go ahead and go up through the first bead again and then down through that second bead. This is just going to help to keep it nice and tight as I work on my project. So now I'm going to pick up 1 bead. My thread is coming out of the bottom. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come right back through that same bead again to make a circle. And have a little, let me see here, little knot. Let me figure out what in the world is going on. There we go. This got itself tangled on each other. Okay, so now I have 3 beads in a row. My thread is coming out of the bottom of this middle one here. So I'm going to take my needle and just come up through that new one that I added here. And I'm going to pull it through. And then again, to keep everything tight, I'm going to go down through the middle one and up through this last one again, just to keep it tight as I work. I'm going to pick up 1 bead. I'm going to come up through the same bead I'm coming out of to make the circle. And then come through the new bead. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce. This will help you so much. Look at that. So I'm going to show you a little easy trick here. Just pull that little loop. And your knot will go away. Normally. All right. Reinforce the row. So this way, as you work, it's really going to help you be able to do your brick stitch easier on the next row. So now I only need 1 more bead for the row because now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 beads. So I just need 1 more. So I'm going to pick up that 1 bead and I'm going to come back down through the same bead my thread's coming out of to make that circle. And then I'll come up through the new bead. Now, just like I've done for the whole rest of the row, I'm going to go ahead and go down and then up. So that way everything is in a nice straight line. So if I was only going to do the 3, like this one over here, of course, I would stop at 3. If I was going to do 7, then I would need to add 2 more beads, just like I've added here, to make it longer. So now we're going to do this little brick stitch top here. It's going to be really short. So we are going to pick up 2 beads to start. When you're making brick stitch diamonds and you're making it smaller, you have to do a decrease stitch. So our decrease stitch is we are going to skip the first thread here, and then we're going to go under the second thread. This is called our thread bridge. You can see we've got little bridges of thread between the beads, and so we skip the first thread bridge and go under the second one. And I'm going to pull this all the way through. And you'll see that my thread or my beads lay like wonky to each other. So we have to straighten these up. So I go up through the blue bead here. I'm going to pull straight up. Then I go down through this kind of metallic green bead. Okay, let me move some stuff here. There we go. And then up through that blue bead again. Now, doing what I just did, that's going to straighten everything up. So when I pull this tight, you see now how it kind of flattens those out and makes them lay like we want them to. So I'm going to pick up 1 bead and go under the next thread bridge, which is right here. And go up through the bead I just added. And then pick up 1 bead and go through the last thread bridge of my row here. And then come through that 1 bead. So that you've got something that looks like this. Now we have to do a decrease again. So I'm going to pick up 2 beads. I'm going to skip the first thread bridge and go under the second thread bridge there. Go up through 1 bead and then down and up. Thread on 1 bead. Take your needle and come under that last thread bridge there. And then up through that bead. Pull the thread tight. So now you have a row of 3. So pick up 2 beads. Remember, we got to do our decrease. So we skip the first thread bridge and go under that second thread bridge there. Got to straighten it out, so I go up through 1 and then down and up. All right, and I made a hot mess here. Let me figure out what I did. There we go. And then up through this bead again. Put my fingers on it this time. Make sure I pull the thread really tight. So now I have a little wonky pyramid. Now this is the reason why your piece looks a little wonky at this point. It's because this mix uses a couple of Toho and my Yuki seed beads. So what happens is they make up for the size. And that's okay because it's gonna look fine and perfect when you finish out the earring itself. So don't worry if your little triangle looks a little wonky. We're gonna fix it, all right? So I'm here at the top and I'm gonna pick up, I think 6 15s. My thread is coming out here to the left, so I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna come through the bead on the right. Now, let's not start a political debate here or a bead debate. If you want to, this is how I personally like it. If you want to put a wire protector here or a jump ring or whatever you want to, do what floats your boat, okay? This is just what I like personally. I don't have an issue with anything happening, ear wires coming off or anything like that. So you do you, all right? But this is just how I'm doing it. I'm going through and I'm reinforcing that again. And I'm really happy with it. If it just stresses you out, you want to see that a perfect circle, you can take your awl in there and you can make that into a perfect little oval for your ear wire. And then I'm going to take my needle, it's coming down out of this bead here, and I'm just going to come straight down, or straight up, I guess I should say, depends on which way is going to be easiest to hold, through those beads to come out here at the bottom. Now before I go any further, I'm going to actually thread my needle onto my little tail thread over here, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that tail thread. That's just going to make my life a little bit easier as I work the fringes. I won't have anything else to have to deal with. So I'm just going to take and stitch through several beads. I'm not going to worry about tying any knots or anything like that because you've gone through these beads enough that you won't have to worry about that little tail thread coming loose. So I'm going to go through a couple of beads here. It helps if you have your needle threaded, or there we go. I'm going to go through two more beads here. And then I'm going to use my thread zap. I'm using that Wildfire cord cutter today. And I'm going to just zap it off. Just like that. And now I'm ready to continue. So again, remember on my little sheet over here, I told you we're doing the 5, so I'm going to start off with 44 beads. Again, if you want it shorter, just add less beads. If you want it longer, add more beads. Completely up to you. So I'm going to pick up 44 beads here, and then we'll start our first fringe. Okay, so as you can see here, I now have my 44 beads on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull this 44th bead. I'm going to pull it down a little bit. So that way I remember to skip that bead. If you go through that bead and all the others, you're just going to take them off. So you got to remember to skip that bead. Now, I taught my mama how to do fringe the other day, and I learned some important lessons when teaching a beginner. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is when you go through them, only go through a few beads at a time when you're getting started. If you are an advanced beader, you can go through as many as you want. But if you're a beginner at the fringe, definitely only go through a few beads at a time. Don't be afraid to pick your piece up. My mom was terrified to pick it up. So don't be afraid to pick it up. It's not going to fall apart on you unless you don't skip that last bead. Okay, and you want to make sure that you're not skipping any beads as you go up through here. If you skip any of these beads, it's going to pop out and it's going to look funny. So you do not want to skip any of the beads. That's why I say only go through a few at a time. Now, if you're like me and you've been beading for 20 years, go through the whole stack. Do whatever makes you happy. All right, so when I get back up here to the top and I've gone through all of my beads, I'm going to continue on through the first bead here on this bottom row. I'm going to pull this through, and when I pull, I'm going to hold the bottom here, put my little finger here, and I'm just going to give this a gentle tug. Now that gentle tug is just simply going to take up any excess thread that I have hanging out, and you can see there that I'm going to have a really, really nice flow on this fringe. So now my thread is coming out of the top of this bead. So I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to go down through the very next bead. And sometimes you'll have to make it do what you want to, so you may just kind of have to wiggle and jiggle and get it in there. There we go. So it's going down through there, and you'll notice I'm being really careful as I pull through. I'm not pulling through quickly because I want to make sure I don't get any of the fringe caught as I pull that thread. So now this next fringe, you can see the first one was 44, so my next fringe is going to be 46. So I'm going to go ahead and pull and do those 46. This is what your row of 46 is going to look like. You can see it's going to be just a little bit longer than that first row. So just like I did on that first fringe, I'm going to pull the last bead kind of away here. So I skip that bead, and then I'm going to work my way up through the fringe. Again, if you're a beginner, only go through a few at a time. Biggest tip, make sure you skip that bottom bead. Okay, so you can see here I've got quite a bit of thread. So the way to fix that, again, is to just hold this very bottom bead down here and gently tug in an upward motion, because that's the way the thread is moving. So I'm going to continue up through the fringe. And remember, I came out of that purple bead to start the fringe, so I've got to go back up through that same purple bead again to finish out my fringe. And I'm going to kind of keep my little pinky holding these two fringes so that my thread doesn't get caught in those fringe. And now I'm going to take my needle down through the next bead in that bottom row. And now I'm ready to do my longest fringe, which is the 48. So I'm going to continue to do my fringe. I'm going to do the 48, the 46, and the 44. All right, so once you get all your little fringes done and you're coming out of the top, you are ready to get rid of the thread. So I've gone through my last bead for the row, which is this one. And then I'm going to kind of work it up at a diagonal. And again, you can see I'm going to keep my pinky on that fringe so that my thread doesn't get caught here. And I'm just going to stitch up through the top. And if you can get your needle through to reinforce that top, I suggest doing that. And then I might go down through this whole other side. You don't really have to worry about tying off the thread. Again, you've been through these beads so many times that you don't have to, but if you are just somebody who says, OMG, I can't believe you won't put a knot there, you can absolutely put some half-hitch knots in here. But if you stitch through the beads in several different directions and in several different ways, you don't have to worry about this earring coming apart. So I'm gonna stitch down through one of the fringes here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use my little thread zap and get rid of that thread. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to use a pair of flat nose pliers, and I'm gonna use my ear wire here. I'm gonna bend that little loop straight up towards me, and then I'm going to thread my earring through just like this. And then when I close it, I make sure to close it back exactly how I opened it, so that now one of my fringe earrings is complete. So you can use, you might have enough thread left over to do a second earring, but I doubt it. You'll probably just want to go ahead and thread your beads with a new 2-yard piece of thread to finish out your second earring. And we do it exactly like the first. Attach our beautiful little ear wires here. And then you have a fun new pair of earrings. And like I said, you want to do them all one length, you can do them all one length. The length on these is 48 beads, and I did 3 here. Here is confetti earrings. I did a video on that. We'll link it down at the bottom so you can see that. Plus, I did this picture that you can see here. It is of a bead crochet bracelet and a different pair of fringe that I did using that Miss Jane's mix. So friends, I hope you enjoyed learning this really simple fringe earring, and I hope that you really make some to give as gifts to people who are on your gift list for 2022. Now, I do have the 2 seed bead mixes for sale on my website, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. I'm also going to link below in the description box for the video. We are going to put the links for the confetti earrings, video, and the pattern for some really great fringe earring patterns that I have for free on my website, and some of them you do pay for, but we're going to link all that in the show notes below so that way you can see all of those. So guys, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.